Hey, welcome back to Connection Point Studies. We are glad to have you here. I have Jason with me. Jason's finishing his second year in the internship.
Almost there.
It's almost there,
Almost
and
there.
then you're graduating from Bible college here pretty quick
Yeah,
too, aren't
almost
you?
there too.
That's really exciting,
hmm
isn't it? There's some good stuff going on. Jason's done a great job of working alongside me on a lot of things, and he's written these studies today. They're really great studies, and we've got a good warm-up question for you to start with to think about and to get you going on this study. So before we do that, the title of the series is kind of interesting. F,
Yeah.
somebody hijacked a letter.
hmm
Well, we're going to talk about some words that start with F that people have trouble with, but they're not the words that we think of that start with F. So the first word is forgive, right?
hmm
And so that's what we're talking about today. So let's give them a warm up question to
Right.
get
So
going.
the first one question we have for you guys is, what was the last thing that you ran away from?
All right, everybody in your group. Oh, by the way, what was the last thing you ran away
You
from?
know, last week I was on a run, and I don't know why people can't keep their dogs in check, but this dog got out of the house or backyard and chased me for
And,
about a block,
and you ran.
I ran a
Okay.
little faster.
So some of you have an experience. What's the last thing you ran away from? And it's a good chance for you to share. Everyone in your group shares, and at the end of that time, come back and we'll get you started in the Bible study. All right, Jason, they're back here, and this is an interesting study. We want them to look and read a passage of Scripture, but before they read it, we want to set some background. So, what is it that we're asking them to read?
Yeah, so we're asking them to read the letter to Philemon, or Paul's letter to Philemon about this whole story of a runaway slave. And I think it's really important that we know the
Set this
background
up.
so we know both Onesimus' side of the story and Philemon's side of the story.
And what's kind of cool is this is an entire book of the Bible, right? It's
Right.
a real small letter, one of the small little letters that everybody can read. You can read it in just a short setting. But if you don't know the background, you're going to read the letter and it's not going to make sense, right? So let's set the characters of this scene. Who's Philemon?
So Philemon is a slave owner or a wealthy man or some kind of a person of some kind of status where he doesn't have to be a slave. He has his own piece of land. He has
Okay.
maybe his own business. So he's kind of a guy who's doing well in
Kind
life.
of a business owner, slave owner type person.
Yeah.
Then you have Onesimus. Who's Onesimus?
Onesimus is his slave, and so Onesimus is a guy who maybe indentured himself to him. Like slavery is not the same as what we think slavery is nowadays. Back then, what a slave was someone who kind of indentured themselves for work, much like we have businesses today.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
indenture ourselves to a business. The business pays us back for our services, and likewise, the same thing was with Onesimus, where he indentured himself, did work, had his family be provided for by Philemon's family or Philemon's business.
Right. So in essence, if you didn't know what this is like, you would commit yourself to 40 years of your life. Say, you're 12 years old, and for 40 years you'd commit till you were 52. You would sell that 40 years of labor to a business owner, and that would be your indentured service. And for that, you would get remuneration. You actually got a salary. You actually did get supplies for your family, etc. But you were committed
Right.
to work, and they call it slavery because it was really indentured.
Yeah, you couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, you couldn't get out of it. Okay, so we have Philemon, who's the business owner,
hmm
who has bought 40 years of Onesimus's life, and then who's writing this letter?
So this is the Apostle Paul's letter, and so it's funny because we don't really get much of Paul's story in this letter. We get
Mhm.
Philemon and Onesimus' story, and out of some crazy turn of events, Onesimus runs into Paul, and
Yeah.
that's where just everything gets stirred into the pot, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where this story
So,
takes place.
so Paul's in another city. He runs into Onesimus, and Onesimus makes a change in his life. He becomes a Christian. And then what does Paul challenge him to do?
Paul challenges Onesimus to actually go back and face whatever he ran away from. Being an indentured servant to Philemon's family, his family was also back with
Yeah.
Philemon's family. So he ran away from not only Philemon, but his own family as well.
He ran away from his family, ran away from his job. He
Mhm.
was really just running in
Yeah.
his life. And so here's Paul saying, you're a Christian now. You need to make things right.
Yeah,
You
go
need to
back
go
and
back.
face whatever he
Right.
ran away from.
And also what Paul is addressing now is Philemon, who has a problem because really Onesimus has kind of stolen from him. And so Paul's challenging Philemon to do what we want to talk about today, which is forgiveness. So, with that background, we want you to read the whole book of Philemon and then focus on the verses 1 through 5 We want to answer a question.
Yeah.
Answer the question.
So
What is
forgiveness
it?
starts with faith. And so what I want to ask is, what's the difference between an earthly forgiveness and a heavenly forgiveness?
Okay. And after you've answered that question, come back and we'll talk to you. So how would you answer that question?
The differences between
yeah.
forgivenesses. Yeah, an earthly forgiveness is kind of like a pardon. It doesn't really actually heal the heart, heal the soul. When I've forgiven those who really offended me or really hurt me, my trap or the things that hold me back from continuing to develop as a character to continue loving people are set free. When I actually forgive someone with the power that God's given me,
Yeah.
my life becomes free rather than just pardoning someone from what they've done.
And you and I have seen this where people forgive some incredibly onerous things that you'd think they really don't deserve forgiveness. This person doesn't deserve my forgiveness. Yet when you do it, it doesn't free that person as much as it frees you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a second question we wanted to focus on, and that question's out of verse 6. So give him that question.
So Paul challenges Onesimus to be generous with his forgiveness. And so I want to ask the question, why should we be generous with our forgiveness as Christians?
Okay. And then we'll talk about it when you come back.
Dan, why is it hard to be generous with forgiveness? What's the difficulty behind it?
There was a little side note on here too. It talks about, is it like money? It's hard to give money. It's also hard to give forgiveness because it's ours. It's something we want. We own this. And when I think of forgiveness, it's my right to get back at somebody. So I want to hang on to that. I want to own the ability to exact my payment. And it's kind of like with money. It's hard to let go of money because it's mine. And there's this okay, you owe me. And when I let go of that, it's changes me. But it's hard to do.
No, I completely agree. I know for me, recently I had to forgive someone too, and it's just I could not let go of this.
In
this
fact,
thing.
Jason, I would say that this is one thing that we have to continue to visit time and time and time again, because almost every week we have someone new we have to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that true? It's so true. All right, we want to keep focusing on this in verses 7 and 8. We have another question.
Yeah, because we just focused on how hard it is to let go of forgiveness. So why is giving forgiveness hard?
Well, as you can see, I'm sure you had a lot of opinions, and we kind of shared already why we think some of that's hard. But, even as you share, you realize that there's a lot of things. There's a bunch, and I don't know how you would answer that question, but it's just hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say I just got to, man up. That's just my thing. I just got to suck it up and just give it,
Okay, so verses 10 through 18, which is the last section, which is really Philemon, this person that has to forgive. He kind of focuses on him.
Right.
What is it that we want to ask?
Yeah, so what does Paul ask Philemon to do? And would Paul tell you to do the same?
Okay.
So you may have discussed on what you thought Paul asked Philemon to do. Dan, what do you think Paul asked Philemon to do, and what would he tell you the same thing?
You know what I love? Paul looked at Philemon and said, "I led you to Christ, yet you owe me. So I can't make you do this, but I'm telling you, forgive this guy." And I think we need people in our life sometimes that come alongside us and say, "Jason, you're holding a grudge here.
Mm-hmm.
You need to own up to this, and you need to do that." I think that's what Paul was doing. He was encouraging him to let go. I love the end of this story. The end of the story is that historians tell us that Onesimus became a church leader. And it's really exciting to see how when you finally let someone else go, sometimes they become something better than you thought they would be. Now, we have an application question that we want them to ask and to finish up the study. So give them that application question.
Yeah, so what would you gain if you actually forgave someone?
Okay.
What would happen?
And as you each share out of that question, maybe you have someone in mind, this is a chance to pray together as a group and share together. And we'll see you next week at Connection Point Studies.